For as much as gamers would love for everyone to think that their favourite pastime is all about pulling off epic kill streaks and getting engrossed in deeply engaging stories, a good portion of the everyday gaming experience is actually taken up with doing really dumb things. Despite their increased efforts to be taken seriously, video games are still, even if only partially at times, at the whims of player agency, meaning gamers can completely break a serious atmosphere if they so wish. Everyone does it, and even if it's just small things like running rings around NPCs you're forced to follow in a passive-aggressive effort to speed them up, or trying to jump on top of them if they're blocking a doorway, there are certain universal quirks that all players do in games that none of us can quite explain. Thankfully, the beauty of the internet means that these embarrassing quirks can now be embraced by like-minded players from across the globe. A skillfully told story or a perfectly paced set piece is all well and good, but what you're supposed to do will never beat the dumb enjoyable things players get up to when they're let loose to do whatever they want. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 12 enjoyably dumb things gamers do that we can't explain. Number 12. Punching the corpses of your falling enemies. At some point during their gaming career, each and every player will have come across an enemy that they just can't seem to beat. While it might start out harmless enough, after having to constantly restart because you've been annihilated 20 times in a row and had to sit through the same annoying cutscenes, things eventually start to get a bit personal. Of course, you'll eventually win, providing your controller stays in one piece anyway, but even the glorious glow of victory that comes with gaining the upper hand on these frustrating fellows never quite feels like justice for all the effort that you put into besting them. Obviously then, you've got to show them who's boss, even after they're dead, either by giving their rotting corpse a good slap around or firing a whole clip into their lifeless face as you manically take in the satisfaction of getting your own back. It might seem a bit like overkill in hindsight, but come on, they totally deserved it. 11. Needing to see if your character can swim. Even though you've been able to swim in most games for decades now, a lot of players, older ones especially, will still be a bit cautious when they come across even the smallest bodies of water. That trepidation isn't undeserved though, because many developers treat water the same way they do a steaming pile of lava, an instant killing and highly dangerous environmental deathbringer that you have to somehow find a way around. Of course, even if you have these worries that it might kill you, you've still got to check yourself by flinging yourself into it with reckless abandon, just to see whether your suspicions were correct or not. Number 10. Becoming the new cameraman. It doesn't matter how meticulous game developers craft their cinematics. If you give players the chance to mess around with the camera directly, they're going to throw all that great cinematography out the window to check out the terrible textures lurking in the background. Whether it's the zoom functionality in Metal Gear or the ability to move the camera around during dialogue scenes in Skyrim, players will mess with the camera during even the most dramatic of scenes. It kinda ruins the atmosphere, but what do you expect players to do? Actually sit there and not interfere if they're given the chance? Who do you think we are? Number 9. Switching weapons while running. Okay, hands up. Who's been killed in a first-person shooter because they've had their sidearm equipped for no reason? Sprinting between combat engagements in an intense shooter like COD, or even large-scale firefights in Battlefield will probably only keep you at the action for a couple of seconds. But to your twitchy fingers, that can feel like an agonizing eternity. So, for no real reason at all, you'll probably find yourself running around these games switching between your primary and secondary weapons. Why? No one really knows, because doing so only ends up with you coming face to face with another player holding a rocket launcher while you scramble to put away your tiny M9 pistol. Number 8. Showing victory by teabagging corpses. Even if you're a little embarrassed to admit that you've done it in the past, every single gamer has succumbed to the temptation to administer a vicious dose of teabagging, especially to a particularly annoying rival player. It's not your fault, and it's a bit 2008, but there's simply no bigger or bolder taunt than crouching over the remains of your defeated enemies. Although it can happen in offline modes, the art of bagging, patent pending, was truly perfected in the online space. Because there's nothing more insulting than being dominated by an enemy player and having to watch them thrust into you in the moments just before a respawn. Number 7. Jumping constantly on your way to the next goal. Even though jumping isn't usually any faster than your regular walking speed, it sure beats running to every objective in a game like a schmuck. No matter how slow you're going, jumping to your next destination instead of just walking surprisingly breaks up the monotony. Likewise, there's nothing that feels better than a solid jump mechanic, and abusing the hell out of it while exploring is an easy way to squeeze a bit of enjoyment even out of the most boring sections. Yeah, it completely breaks the immersion if you're bunny hopping around the post-apocalyptic Boston Commonwealth, but that doesn't stop every single gamer from habitually doing it, no matter the game they're playing. Number 6. Hoarding pointless sentimental items. Everyone knows that at the start of an RPG, you usually just grab any old junk off the shelf until you're too weighed down to move. However, in between all this accumulated rubbish, there's probably a few items you come to find comfort in. Your first gun, first piece of armor, or even a rusty locket that you found in a toilet can become familiar staples of your inventory over those introductory hours. Consequently, when it comes to actually needing to get rid of items so you can, move again, you'll probably find yourself holding on to these pointless treasures. The first gun you found hasn't been useful since you were level 2, yet you feel compelled to lug it around with you for sentimental reasons. And if it's a game where you can have a permanent storage space, you'll probably end up dedicating whole rooms to this junk, never bothering to use any of it, but taking comfort in seeing it as you sift through 3 crates full to the brim with rubbish, looking for the one item you actually do need. Number 5. Killing every animal you see, unless it's a dog. Animals in games are majestic creatures, painstakingly created to do nothing but make a world feel lived in. Video game animals make for the perfect background scenery that you can kill anywhere. The impulsive need to exterminate all animals in a title is universal, and honestly, the desire to hunt and kill even the most innocent of creatures is just kind of a natural gaming reaction at this point. Hell, do you know anyone who didn't immediately murder the first chicken they came across at the beginning of Skyrim? Fable even gave you an achievement for booting 100 of them up the backside. It's survival of the fittest. Even though you always feel a bit of regret afterwards, running over, slicing, or shooting down video game animals is something players just can't resist doing. Unless there's a dog involved, of course. No one ever hurts the dog. Number 4. Reloading even if you've only fired off one shot. Although action heroes and movies can shoot for hours and hours without ever having to stop to reload, gamers can't go 2 seconds without making sure their bullet count is maxed out. In first-person shooters especially, you might only fire off one round, but you know for a fact you're going to reload straight after it. And 9 times out of 10 an enemy will come around the corner right at that moment just to blow you away. See, us gamers are so scared that we'll be lacking in bullets when we do face off against an enemy that we obsess over having a full clip at all times. Sure, you might still have 30 bullets left in a magazine that holds 31, but you'll never be able to shake the feeling that the final missing round could mean the difference between life and death. Number 3. Letting yourself get killed so you can restart a stealth section. No matter what stealth game you're playing, if you get caught in a pickle and mess up the flow of your beautifully executed silent takedown streak, then you're probably going to restart the section over until you get it just right. Simply put, there's just nothing better than slipping through a level of a stealth game undetected with a trail of bodies in your wake, and it's less satisfying if you take a few bullets in the process or accidentally set off a few alarms. It doesn't have to be anything major that makes you feel like you've failed either, and even being seen by one guy often results in you purposefully getting yourself killed just so you can start the level all over again. Number 2. Stealing absolutely everything in sight. What is it about loot that turns all gamers into giant kleptomaniacs? No matter the genre or the style of game, if a title gives you the opportunity to steal things, consequence-free or not, it's guaranteed that you'll end up landing in your pockets with literally every single item you can get your hands on. It's even worse in RPGs, where you often pick up junk you can't even use. You might pick up half a broom handle in the same sweep as a silver sword, and you probably won't get around to throwing it away until hours later. Not until your inventory's so full you can't move anywhere. Number 1. Climbing to the highest point of the map just to throw yourself off. In any open world game, or actually any game that gives you even a sliver of freedom, you can guarantee that every player's eyes will be longingly focused on the highest point they can see. Whether that's a mountain, a building, or a floating platform, you can be certain that every single player will be going out of their way to scale it at some point. But it's never just enough to actually climb your way up. And once you reach the peak of the map, you won't just be taking in the scenery and relishing in your achievement. Because when you're up there, feeling smug and looking down on all the peasants who can't reach you, there's only one thing left to do. Throw yourself off to certain death, of course. So that's our list. I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com. If there's any more brilliantly dumb little gaming quirks you've developed that I've missed here, make sure to let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and check out the website for even more lists like this.